Hello, everyone. It's Joe Waxman. And this morning, I wanted to take a break from astrology and share my thoughts about a different subject, another topic, which I've been thinking about. And I um, just want to say a few things. Last night I started to watch this documentary um, on The Secret, which I think was popular quite popular in the past. Um, Maybe still is, but I think it was like quite trendy for a while. You know, the secret, um, supposedly the ancient secret to getting everything you want, which all these famous rich people knew, and oh God. It was it literally made me sick. Like I couldn't watch it because it was just such nonsense. And to give you a little background, well, my family, I guess, was involved in spirituality, and I took a liking to it early on, reading various spiritual and philosophical books, the Tao Te Ching, various Zen teachings, things like that. Then when I was 20, not 20, 27, I met Vanessa Stone, a woman who became my spiritual teacher, I guess you could say. Um, but ever since then, I've really been studying a lot about spirituality, meditating, and it was hugely useful and valuable for me in my process of overcoming my childhood trauma and just developing, and still is. Um, Most of the spirituality that I looked into was Eastern based, and they had the idea of attaining enlightenment or nirvana, moksha, satori, right? And I'm non-denominational. I don't really stick to one teaching. I look at across the board at all the different teachings. I feel like, at least for me, like I'm well equipped enough to be able to discern between what is authentic and what isn't. I mean, some people, I guess, don't trust themselves. They don't feel they can really tell, so they stick to one path and they're like, "This is it. This is what I'm trusting." It's direct lineage from, let's say, the Buddha or something, or whatever else maybe be your path. I don't know. Um, I don't find I need to do that. Like I can, listen to someone, and if I don't know that they're, not being completely authentic, over time I get a sense, a feeling of how authentic they are. And there's varying degrees, I found out. There are some people who, yeah, they are very well developed and to a certain degree, and other people, but then sometimes they're just throwing in their own egotistical manipulations because they can, right? Because they've only reached a certain level. Um, but I'm not here to pick on anyone in particular. I want to talk about why the secret is bullshit and what the real truth is about the nature of the mind, according to everything that I've read and observed and experienced and understood, and um, yeah. So the secret is this. So if you're not familiar with the secret, let me summarize it. It starts by saying like, oh, this is the secret that all these, successful and wealthy and rich people and all the masters of the past they knew, that it's all in your mind, right? It's all in your thoughts. And it's based on attraction. Like attracts like. Well, I can tell you right there that the law of attraction is nuanced, and it's not just like attracts like. We all also hear opposites attract, and both are true in different ways. And it's because I grew up studying yin and yang, and basically the duality, the dialectic of yin and yang is nuanced, and it's very deep and profound, which I should do another video about that because George Sawa really penetrated uh, the understanding of yin and yang. And it's not just like attracts like or opposites attract. Yes, those are true, but that's oversimplifying it. But these so-called like psychologists or therapists or whatever, they're just like repeating all this not. It's all in your mind and your thoughts. The secret is You just need to align yourself with, and I just literally couldn't stomach going too far into it. So I don't know, like, I just knew because it's setting off all my alarm, but like just from everything I studied, I know they're bullshit. I know they're not telling the truth, and I know they don't know what they're talking about, right? People have certain levels of success based on their destiny, based on their karma, which and I'm drawing this from several sources. I mean, just from a very materialistic point of view, not very materialistic, but from a more materialistic point of view, if you look at the work of Dolores Cannon, where she pioneered the research into uh, hypnotism. She took people into the fullest, deepest layer of hypnotism, and she could bring people back into past lives or even in between lives. And she did this for decades. It was her whole career. Is how she became famous. And what she says is, from many, 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 bringing people under into the trance, into the deepest trance, that, and other people have confirmed this after her who practice her style, that the soul, before we are born, decides the course of life. And based on our karma, it picks from a pool of karma. We have a whole big bag of karma, most of us. And the soul draws from our karmic pool and decides, together with spirit guides, what we're going to experience in this life, right? And we map out our life before we are born. So most of our life is already completely decided, not 100%, but like maybe 70%. And then there's sort of like a flow chart, you could say, because it's not written in stone, even though there are certain events and we are spirit guides and destiny, like the way it works with, the whole everything. It all maps out, right? And if you're like, well, where's God in all this? Well, God's behind it all. And God is the ultimate source of all of this. And he's, nothing goes against God's wishes or will, right? It is all within God's will. And the spirit guides and even our own soul are enacting God's will. So this is all with God's, if you want to put it in those terms, this is all God's will and God's approval and God's making, God's creation, right? But to go into the more details, the spirit guides are what help us plan out our soul's journey in this life. And our ego is not our soul. Our ego is their personality, the mask that we wear for this incarnation. And it goes away when we die, and we're going to have a different ego, a different personality next incarnation. And we've had a different ego, different personality in past incarnations, right? And the soul remains the same. The soul grows and evolves. But most of our life is already mapped out before we're born. There's some variation. We have options and choices. If this, then that. If that, then this. And there's a sort of a flow chart, and opportunity windows for things to happen. Like if it didn't happen this time, we'll get another chance for it to happen, whatever that thing might be, whatever our destiny or karma, whether it's good or bad, and there's good and bad karma, So if there's an accident that's meant to happen, if it doesn't happen at this point, it'll happen at this point. And if we're supposed to have something very good happen to us, if it doesn't happen at this point, then it'll happen at this point, and if not that point, then at this point. So like there's periodic like cycle returns, right? The secret wants to overly simplify and say it's all due to your thinking. And if you're not getting what you want, it's because you didn't do it right. You didn't think hard enough and you didn't believe it enough, right? Just believe your thoughts more and think good thoughts and don't think bad thoughts. I mean, first of all, our thoughts are not conscious. It's very simple and easy to prove this. You do not think your thoughts. And how do I know this? Well, if you think your thoughts, then stop thinking your thoughts for a minute, just for an experiment. Just try an experiment. You're the creator of your thoughts, so you think, just try stop thinking. Do it. Try stop thinking. Here's the thing. You cannot stop thinking because you're not thinking. You're not creating your thoughts. Your thoughts are an emanation of your subconscious mind, of your karma. They're like the smell from the trash can. You can't stop the trash can from smelling. You can't, Febreze it away. It's still going to emit odors. Your thoughts are bubbling up, an emanation, an odorous, smelly emanation of your karma, a reflection of your karma. And you can't control it. You're not some Wizard of Oz person behind your thoughts, pulling levers and like thinking what thought, like pulling from a bag of stuff. The thoughts are automatic. And here's the thing, that's what being asleep means. When you identify with your thoughts, which are automatic, and you think you're thinking, and you think you're the thinker. That's what the definition of asleep means. And that's what that's what the soul's mission is, to become awake and aware of this process and to evolve above it. Now, I don't mean to sound like I am, enlightened, but I have progressed spiritually enough to become aware of the process, and I'm in process of sorting it out for myself. And it's always an individual process. Nobody can do this for you. Everyone has to figure this out for themselves. But we can have pointers, and we got to have people, sharing their experience and pointing the way and helping us to navigate more clearly. So I'm in process, I'm in progress, but I'm well enough aware that I'm not thinking my thoughts, that my thoughts are thinking me, in fact, that I'm not contained within my thoughts. And I've been doing this for years. I've spent years like really focusing on this. So this is not just something new that I've discovered. It's like the I thought, like we would say, like just really have a meditation where you're just like I. What does it mean when I say I? We take it, it's a very asleep conditioning that we say I, and we think that's us. We think that's who we are. I. Like close your eyes and try and who's there? Who am I? Right? One of the spiritual practices, especially in Advaita Vedanta, which is a very evolved branch of Hinduism. They teach you to practice, who am I? Because it's a question. You're trying to find, who am I? Because we take it for granted, we're asleep. When we say I, we think that's us. We say I, and that's who we are. That's not, first of all, I is a thought. Are you a thought? You're not a thought. You cannot be a thought. You cannot be contained in it, because then you're ephemeral. Who witnesses the thought, right? Who's experiencing the thought? Who's the thinker of the thought? Now, watch your mind, like say, I. Okay. If you can admit that I is a thought, where is that thought coming from? Do you exist before you say I? Like, perceive the silence from which you are creating the thought I, and then also witness that you are observing, that you are thinking I. Who observes it? What observes I? And the teaching is that just as the eyeball cannot see itself except within a mirror, like you cannot actually see your own eyeball except in reflection or in video. Like I'm watching myself in video, but like if you look in the mirror, you can see your eyeball, but without a mirror, without a video, the eye cannot see itself, or the teeth cannot bite itself. You can clench your teeth together, and you can chew on a carrot, or whatever, a sandwich, but the individual teeth cannot bite itself. In the same way that you cannot witness yourself, so that you are non-observable to yourself. You can only witness what you are not. And it's important to understand, it's important to bring your logical mind into this, because that's how we wake up. The logical mind is what helps us realize all the falsities that we've taken for granted. That when you say I, that is not you. You're not I. I is a thought. And you're taking it for granted. You are not your body, and you are not your mind. You are preceding all of that. You are the witness to all of that. You are the canvas or the context from which all of that arises. Because if you can witness your mind, that's obviously not you. That's secondary to you. If you can witness a thought, that's secondary to you. You are behind the thought, right? but you're not going to directly witness yourself. So notice that I and thoughts are not you. Well, it's important to understand this because then we're getting down to the root of it. We're getting down to like these thoughts are external from us. We're not even creating our thoughts. And the only thing we can do with our thoughts is believe nonsense. If we believe nonsense, we're creating blockage for ourselves, right? So don't believe anything. There's no reason to believe anything. Your life is already destined to happen in a certain way based on your karma. The only thing you can do is reduce your karma. And through your karma, then your destiny will become lighter and cleaner and happier and more joyous, right? It's not going to happen by trying to control your thoughts, believing you are, the thinker of thoughts and that your thoughts are yourself, identifying with your thoughts and creating layers. That's building more ego. That's building more karma and negative karma, in fact, because you're creating structures in your mind that are false. So the secret is advocating for creating negative karma. It's saying by trying to manipulate your thoughts and creating belief structures in your mind that you're going to improve your destiny. You're not going to improve your destiny by doing that. You're going to create more negative karma and slow yourself down. The way to improve your destiny, which ultimately, like you can go, like here's the thing, you can go rob a liquor store, you can rob a bank, and if you get away with it, you have the money. And you might think, well, I've improved my karma, I improved my destiny, see, I have more money. Until it comes time where that karma comes for collection, which it will happen. That's what people don't understand. And that's what people going down a negative path are fooled by, right? The path of materialism, the path of egotism. They go around creating negative karma for themselves, and life will allow that, especially for some people. It will allow them to go on creating more and more negative karma to see how far they go with it. And then at some point, their karma will ripen, it'll flip, and they'll be in real trouble at that point. Usually for very dark souls, it'll happen probably not before they die, but it'll happen when they die. And then they'll meet their destiny. But for some luckier people, it'll happen before they die. They'll get caught. They'll have to go to jail. They'll have to repay what they stole, what they took. Or they'll have mental illness or physical illness, depending on what it is. If you go on messing with your mind like that, like really trying to contrive stuff through creation, through force, through will, you're going to get mental illness. That's the karma. But if you find another way of making money that's dishonest and you think, see, I'm because one of the things that's like an immediate red flag is that they talk about like rich people. Like rich people are something that's we should all strive for. Rich people are some of the worst people, and I'm just like a lot of them, not all of them. A lot of them are very low level, highly negative souls who have cheated and robbed and steal to get where they are, and they're going to pay a severe price probably when they're after they die in their next incarnation. But they have loads of negative karma, and they're not anything to be envious of in any way, shape, or form, right? So, but they're like, oh, all these rich people, they know the secret, and that's why they're rich. They're criminals. A lot of them are pedophiles and Satanists and murderers, robbers, thieves. And I don't mean to demonize rich people. Are some rich people who just have good karma, right? And they didn't get it from the secret. They got it because their karma warranted that. But if it's not your karma, it's not going to happen. And contrive. And then the thing is, it's very seductive to think, well, oh, I just didn't do it well enough. I didn't get what I wanted because I didn't believe well enough, and I didn't think hard enough, and I didn't create enough, I didn't make enough vision boards and, spend enough time imagining myself with a 100-foot yacht and billions of dollars. All these things are coming from the ego anyway. Your ego is always going to be at odds with your soul's growth, unless you're very mature and self-disciplined and really understand the focus of life. But none of this stuff appeals to those kind of people. This appeals to very low level, egotistical, foolish, ignorant kind of people who just think, oh, if I think well enough, I can create millions of dollars for myself. And it's so spiritual. And I'm co-creating. And we're all co-creationists. And we're all co-creating our reality. But that's all bullshit. Like, you're not creating your reality like that. And so one of the things I know, like, how do I know that? Because I've been studying it for a long time. And if you go into any, authentic spirituality, they all say the same things. It all reflects each other. Like, you have to have a well enough developed mind to be able to interpret it. But they're all saying the same things, literally. Like, it doesn't matter where you go in spirituality, even like Western spirituality and like esoteric Christianity or esoteric Judaism. It's if it's developed enough, if the person knows, if they're evolved enough, they're going to come to the same conclusions. I just want to share my screen for a minute to pull up some quotes. Excuse me. All right. This is Ananda Mahima, a Hindu saint, Advaita Vedanta. Beautiful, 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 actually physically beautiful. Like, she's one of the most gorgeous women I've ever seen, but she was born completely enlightened, completely awake, fully Buddha, full Buddha, born that way. She's a saint, like recognized everywhere as a saint. By doing service, heart and mind are purified. Be convinced of this. Now, these are just some quotes, but okay, by doing service. So this is like by doing service, this is the teaching, very similar teaching to all. You're resolving your karma, right? You're cleaning out your karma. By doing service, heart and mind are purified. Be convinced of this. So that if your heart is pure and your mind is pure, then you're naturally happy, right? It's not talking about you will gain millions of dollars, which is what the secret bullshit is saying. Which is like disgusting. It's offensive. It's offensively disgusting. That's why when I watch it, I want to vomit. It's offensive to think that that's spirituality, like millions of. True spirituality is being content. What's money gonna do but supposedly make you happy? But if you can be happy, or if you can be content and you can be at peace without money, like, money can come and money can go. It's ephemeral, right? And this is very typical. Each saint, each sage, each master, each Buddha, each Christ, each enlightened being is going to have their own personality, so they're going to have their own way of expressing it. To cry out to him is never in vain. So long as no response is received, the prayer must be continued. In water and land, on trees, shrubs, creepers, everywhere in the form's whole universe abides my beloved. Further, all the various forms and modes of being that we behold, are they not expressions of my beloved? For there is none save him. Okay, I'm going to kind of skip through some of these because they don't all directly pertain to what I was. When in spite of all efforts, one fails to catch a train, does this not make it clear from where all one's movements are being directed? Whatever is to happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time, is all fixed by him. His arrangements are perfect. So this is saying all of our destiny is preordained by karma. And now this is not to say, this is not to bring into the idea of like, is there free will or is it not free will? Like I said before, it's mixed. Our soul is really deciding the path of our life together with our spirit guides. And then above all that is God, right? So she's just going directly to the God source. It's saying it is all preordained by God, right? But it doesn't negate any of the other stuff. She's just focusing on the overall big picture. It's all preordained. And if we go into the details a little more, we could say it's all, all our karma, right? Our karma dictates everything. But then there is some wiggle room because life is happening spontaneously. So that's why we say, well, That's why there's this argument: is there free will or not free will? Yes, there's free will for the one, for the all, to be completely spontaneous and to do things completely different and new and unique every single moment. You know, that's why, like, the whole thing of traveling back in time, you're not traveling back in time or the future. Only dimensions, possibly, like different timelines potentially, but it's always going to happen unique and new and spontaneous. That's why life exists. I mean, if there was no spontaneity, if there was no chance for things to happen differently, there would be no life. But it's all happening spontaneously, according to, based on a guideline of underlying karma. He alone knows to whom he will reveal himself, under which form, by what path, and in what manner he attracts any particular man to himself with great force is incomprehensible to the human intellect. The path differs indeed for different pilgrims. Again, it's talking about the, God, he alone, and how God reveals himself in destiny. It's all karma, it's all preordained, right? Joys and sorrows are time-born and cannot last, right? Joys and sorrows are time-born and cannot last. Chasing money, like The Secret, garbage, bullshit, says, that's not real spirituality. And that none of the masters would ever say, oh, secret to life is control your thoughts, then you can become a millionaire. That's the true spiritual teaching. That's offensively horrible. Offensively. That's why I'm like pissed off by it. Like, that's why I'm like, acting like it's offensive to be like, this spiritual, all the spiritual masters of the past knew this. Like, go fuck yourself. The greater the difficulties and obstructions. Oh, sound like The Secret? No. The greater the difficulties and obstructions, the more intense will be your endeavor to cling to his feet, and the more will your prayer increase from within. She's talking about why we suffer, why we go through difficulties and hard times, and it's all to benefit, right? It's not like, oh, you don't know the secret, that's why you're suffering, that's why you're in pain. Just study The Secret, buy our books. It's a gimmick. Ramana Maharshi, one of the most renowned saints of India, lived in just the 20th century, right? A contemporary of Sri Anandamayi Ma. Completely enlightened saint. Got enlightened when he was like 16. Like, these are Buddhas. These are Christ figures. The man who has the sense of being, the man who has the sense of body being himself cannot possibly worship God as formless. Whatever worship he makes will be worship in form alone, not otherwise. These are parsed out quotes. I think I wanted to get at success and failure. When any act has become fruitful, do not become proud, thinking this was achieved by my enterprise. On the other hand, become convinced that God is gracious. When the desired success is not won, notice that he does not say, in order to succeed, you have to know the secret, and that is to control your thoughts. When the desired success is not won, it should not be thought that the action has proved unfruitful. The fruit of it is just the understanding that actions become fruitful in the usual sense by the grace of God, not by mere human effort. Not by mere human effort. You're not going to effort your way to millions of dollars by thinking garbage and making vision boards and buying books called The Secret. After doing a wrong action, one should not hide it from self-love. One should resolve to act rightly in future, avoiding faults. Success and failure are due to destiny, not The Secret garbage bullshit, and not to willpower or the lack of it. One should try to gain equipoise of mind under all circumstances. That is willpower. It is better for the seeker to be in a worldly position, arousing compassion from other men, than for him to be in a state to be envied by them. In other words, he's saying it's not better to be a millionaire. It's not better to be rich and famous or successful. It's better to be in a position where other people are having compassion for you in a lowly position. And I'm not saying one should strive for either. Both are ruled by karma. But if you are in a lowly position, you know, that's just your ego that's upset by it. If you're not successful that you want, that's just your ego. And that's, the secret to a happy life. If a person overlooks the faults of others and sees only their merits and thus keeps his mind serene, his whole life will be happy. To be unconcerned in all things, with the mind cool, free of desires, and without hate, is beautiful in a seeker. See, I mean, this is very consistent with all the enlightened teachings. They all say the same things. Have a good attitude towards life, towards your work. Do your work. Have a good attitude. Do not blame others. Do not be a victim. Do not hate others, right? And do not try to control your mind and contrive and create inorganic creations in order to achieve success, like The Secret wants you to do. I mean, it's just so bad, so fucking horrible. Nisargadatta Maharaj, he owned a shoe store, and then he was an Indian sage guru, and then he found the guru, and he trusted his guru, and he became enlightened, and he was one of the most profound teachers after his enlightenment that we've known. And he wrote the book I Am That, notoriously famous. Not notorious, no, just famous. Wrong word. The sense of I am, consciousness. When I met my guru, he told me, you are not what you take yourself to be. Find out what you are. Watch the sense I am. Find your real self. And this is the same teaching. Watch your mind. This meditation, right? And I have some Dogen quotes, which we'll look at too, is Japanese Zen. It's the same thing. I wanted to pull different things. I obeyed him because I trusted him. I did as he told me. All my spare time I would spend looking at myself in silence. That's Zazen, right? Same thing. And what a difference it made, and how soon. My teacher told me to hold on to the sense I am tenaciously and not to swerve from it even for a moment. That's mind focus, right? I did my best to follow his advice, and in a comparatively short time, I realized within myself the truth of his teaching. All I did was to remember his teaching, his face, his words constantly. This brought an end to the mind. In the stillness of the mind, I saw myself as I am, unbound. I simply followed my teacher's instructions, which was to focus the mind on the pure being, I am, and stay in it. I used to sit for hours together with nothing but the I am in my mind, and soon peace and joy and deep, all-embracing love became my normal state. In it all disappeared, myself, my guru, the life I live, the world around me. Only peace remained, and unfathomable silence. You see, if you want to practice, this is it. Not controlling your mind to gain riches and success, worldly success. That's garbage. That's Satanism. That's essentially Satanism. That's the opposite of spirituality. That's growing the ego, feeding the ego. That's what The Secret is embracing, feeding the ego. It's not some highly evolved spiritual teaching to become more, enlightened. Dogen quotes. Dogen was a famous Japanese Zen master. One of the originals, maybe the original one. I'm not sure in history, but you are unable to find the truth right where you are. Where else do you expect to find it? Not in The Secret. Do not be concerned with the faults of other persons. Same thing Ramana Maharshi said. Do not see others' faults with a hateful mind. Do not imitate other faults. Just cultivate virtue. Buddha prohibited unwholesome actions. He did not tell us to hate those who practice unwholesome actions. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad things. When actualized by the myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the bodies and minds of others, drop away. saying the same exact things. No trace of enlightenment remains, and this no trace continues endlessly. The same thing that this Gautam Maharaj said. They're sitting in silence, focusing the mind. They're not trying to contrive the mind, control the mind, create new constructions in the mind. That's the opposite of spirituality. The secret is teaching people to do the opposite of spirituality, of spiritual teachings. A fool sees himself as another, but a wise man sees others as himself. Forgetting oneself is opening oneself. Prefer to be defeated in the presence of the wise than to excel among the fools. The secret wants you to excel among the fools. It's not teaching you to be defeated in the presence of the wise. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us should strive to awaken. Awaken, take heed. Do not squander your life. Do not chase money, material success. But strive for your soul. The whole purpose of existence is the growth of your soul. No matter how bad a state of mind you may get into, if you keep strong and hold, eventually the floating clouds must vanish and the withering wind must cease. See, the saying, no matter what your mind is doing, if you keep strong and hold out in zazen, in meditation, in seeking the I am, in watching, eventually the floating clouds of the mind must vanish. He's not saying the floating clouds will you will forming and believe into like a creation that where you get lots of money and fame, material success. He's saying the opposite. Floating clouds must vanish. These are the thoughts. The floating clouds are the thoughts. And the withering wind must cease. If you want to travel the way of Buddhas and Zen masters, then expect nothing, seek nothing, and grasp nothing. Again, opposite from the secret. Okay? I just want to destroy the secret. Like, it needs to be like just burned, thrown away, burned, and like it's absolute 100% unmitigated garbage. Like, there's no shred of dignity in the secret. It's just pure fucking crap. Like, and anyone who thinks the secret has something to offer is just like, you don't study anything. Like, you just don't know what you're talking about. Like, I could go on all day long. When you paint spring, do not paint willows, plums, peaches, or apricots. Just paint spring. To paint willows, plums, peaches, or apricots is to paint willows, plums, peaches, or apricots. It is not yet painting spring. Okay, he's just talking about being here and now. I'm not going to go into each one of these. There's a simple way to become Buddha. When you refrain from unwholesome actions, are not attached to birth and death, and are compassionate towards all sentient beings, respectful to seniors and kind to juniors, not excluding or desiring anything, with no designing thoughts or worries. What does the secret tell you to do? Design your thoughts. Create construction in your mind to achieve material gains, to bloat your ego, to become more egotistical, to follow Satan, to become a Satanist. Literally, Satanism is the path of ego. That's why I'm bringing it up. It is that's what Satanism is. It's the path of egotism. And there's only two paths: the path of the soul and the path of the ego. Satanism or God or Satan, right? Doesn't matter what you call it, right? If you're a Christian, you'll say Christ or the devil, good and evil, the soul or the ego. Same exact thing. With no designing thoughts or worries, you will be called a Buddha. Do not seek anything else. To escape from the world means that one's mind is not concerned with the opinions of the world. When you ride in a boat and watch the shore, you might assume that the shore is moving. But when you keep your eyes closely on the boat, you can see that the boat moves. Similarly, if you examine many things with a confused mind, like the secret, you might suppose that your mind and nature are permanent. But when you practice intimately and return to where you are, it will be clear that there is nothing that has unchanging self. Think about the unpermanence of the mind and the falsity of the mind. And if you come at things with a confused mind, you're going to be confused. Your body is like a dewdrop in the morning grass. Your life is as brief as a flash of lightning, momentary and vain. It is lost in a moment. Therefore, live for the soul, not for the ego. It is too late to be ready. Do not view mountains from the scale of human thought. Nothing could be gained by extensive study and wide reading. Give them up immediately. One must be deeply aware of the impermanence of the world. If you study a lot because you are worried that others will think badly of you for being ignorant and you'll feel stupid, this is a serious mistake. Forget other people's opinions. Treading along in the stream like illusory realm, without looking for the traces I may have left, a cuckoo's song beckons me to return home. Hearing this, I tilt my head to see who has told me to turn back. Do not ask me where I am going, as I travel in this limitless world, where every step I take is my home. Again, he's not teaching us to control our thoughts, to create riches and material gains, which doesn't work anyway. One studies Zen. Mountains are mountains, and water are waters. After a glimpse into the truth of Zen, mountains are no longer mountains, and waters are no longer waters. After enlightenment, mountains are once again mountains, and waters once again waters. I mean, this is a famous quote that many people have talked about. It's very profound and probably too deep to go into right now. Plus, I'm not fully enlightened, so I can't comment on that part of things. The Zazen I speak of is not learning meditation. It is simply the Dharma gate of repose and bliss, the practice realization of totally culminated enlightenment. It is the manifestation of ultimate reality. Traps and snares can never reach it. Once its heart is grasped, you are like the dragon when he gains the water, like the tiger when she enters the mountain. For you must know that just there in Zazen, the right Dharma is manifesting itself, and that from the first dullness and distractions are struck aside. So it just goes on and on. There's another quote here. Moksha from Ramana Maharshi. A few days ago, a recent arrival, came into the hall about 3 p.m. and sat down. All the time she was there, she's trying to get up and ask something of Sri Bhagavan. As Bhagavan appeared not to have noticed her and was reading a book, she waited for a while. As soon as Bhagavan put the book down, the book side, she got up, approached the sofa without any fear or hesitation. Swami, I have only one desire. May I tell you what it is? Yes, said Bhagavan. What do you want? I want moksha. Moksha is enlightenment, she said. Oh, is that so? Remarked Bhagavan. Yes, Swamiji. I do not want anything else. It is enough if you give me moksha, said she. Suppressing a smile he had almost escaped his lip, Bhagavan said, Yes, that is all right. That is good. It will not do if you say that you will give it to me sometime later. You must give it to me here and now, she said. It is all right, said Bhagavan. Will you give it now? I must be going, said she. Bhagavan nodded. As soon as she left the hall, Bhagavan burst out laughing and said, turning toward us, She says that it is enough if only moksha is given to her. She does not want anything else. Was seated by my side, looked up to the thread, and quietly said, We have come and are staying here for the same purpose. We do not want anything more. It is enough if you give us moksha. If you renounce and give up everything, what remains is only moksha. What is there for others to give you? It is there always. That is, said Bhagavan. Again, this same thing that they all say and that Buddha said as well. We do not know all that. Bhagavan himself must give us moksha. So saying, she left the hall, looking at the attendees who were by his side. Bhagavan, I should give them moksha, they say. It is enough if moksha alone is given to them. Is not that itself a desire? If you give up all the desires that you have, what remains is only moksha. All you require, sadhana, and you require sadhana to get rid of all those desires. Sadhana is spiritual practice. It's work. It's anything that is it is your duty. You know, it is what you're given to do. To all that you're given to do in your life, all your responsibilities, all your work, your job, that is sadhana. Plus spiritual practice is also sadhana. If it's not accumulating negative karma, if you're not hurting anyone, including yourself or your health, that is sadhana. And you require sadhana to get rid of all those desires. That's you're cleaning out your karma when you're doing sadhana, spiritual practices, or your duty, taking care of your responsibilities, going to work each day with a good attitude, right? That's how you grow and evolve. That's how you gain what you want. That's how you clean out your heart. That's how you become naturally joyous, content, peaceful, happy. You know, all the things that you're chasing, that they teach you to chase in The Secret, money, success, and all that, material gains, what they're supposedly going to give you is happiness. But true happiness comes from being content within yourself, right? So the real way to gain all that is this, what what all these teachings that I'm pointing to, sadhana, getting rid of your karma, right? Spiritual practices, being a good person, having a good attitude, being very responsible with all your duties, because all your duties are geared towards your karma. They're all geared towards, remember I said, like, we decide our destiny before we're born? That's all geared. So everything that happens in your life is from that position where it's all a plan from your soul and your spirit guides to reduce your karma. That's what this life is. It's all geared to reduce your karma. So you can be grateful that if you just do everything that you're supposed to do, your karma will be cleared out and you'll become naturally happier as life goes on, more content, more peaceful, right? More wise, more loving, more caring, more clear. Your mind will clear up. All the clouds will diminish. Same bhava idea is found in Maharatnamala. It said the complete destruction of vasanas, these are latent tendencies, these are karmas, is Brahman and moksha. Okay. One more. This is on my profile somewhere. This is by Eckhart Tolle. He's a modern Western spiritual teacher, and he is enlightened. And I point that out because some people are like, have this weird thinking, like, oh no, like depends on what, like, if you're a Christian, like you have, everyone has their own thoughts, but some people are like, oh, only Japanese and Indian people can be enlightened sages. It's like, they won't outright say it, but they just think that, like you can just tell, like any Westerner, like, no, they're too white skinned to be enlightened, All right. The beginning of freedom is the realization that you are not the thinker. The moment you start watching the thinker, a higher level of consciousness becomes activated. You then begin to realize that there is a vast realm of intelligence beyond thought. That thought is only a tiny aspect of that intelligence. You also realize that all things that truly matter, beauty, love, creativity, joy, inner peace, arise from beyond the mind. Eckhart Tolle is enlightened. Tolle. So is Adyashanti. So are many people. There are many enlightened people. You exist as an idea in your mind. Shunryo Suzuki. He was he brought Zen to America, to California in particular. Okay. I could go on and on all day. Like I said, I've been doing this for years, decades, in fact. I've been, researching, studying, practicing. they all say the same things. All these enlightened beings say the same things, and none of it is the secret. The secret is trash. The secret's garbage. And I hope you tell everyone you know that the secret is just bullshit, because it is. And I hope I've shown just how offensively destructive and evil it really is, the secret, because it's teaching you to be egotistical and to try and fill your ego with material gains by controlling your thoughts and creating constructs in your mind that weren't there before. When you need to do the opposite. You need to get rid of all the constructs, right? Through focusing the mind. You do not create the thoughts, but we're reducing our karma when we do practice. Even though you're not going to quiet your mind when you sit there in meditation, eventually, as your karma is reduced, your mind will become more and more quiet. And meditation helps that process of becoming more aware of that you are not mind. It helps you become disidentified with the mind, helps you observe the mind as a separate entity, which it is. You are not your mind, you are not your thoughts. But when we're deeply asleep, we identify with our thoughts and we think we are the mind, which is, which I could get into. There's a whole nother video that I may or may not make about identity. And we have like this whole thing now about identity politics. That our identity is so important, and whatever we identify with is really who we are, which is all nonsense. Because if you study spirituality, you learn to do the opposite, which is to stop identifying with your thoughts, because we are not our thoughts, we are not our mind, and it doesn't really matter. Well, we shouldn't identify with anything. We have this body, whether it's male or female, makes no difference. We're, just let it be whatever it is. It doesn't matter what you identify with, like try not to play into that, because that's not going to take you to where you need to go, which is towards spiritual evolution. The whole purpose of existence is for the soul to evolve and grow. So like this whole thing, like I identify as this, I identify that, I identify as an apple, or a stick, or a fly, or a woman, or a cat, or it's all just, it's nonsense. It's egotism. It's pure egotism, and it's coming from a backwards mindset. Like, just stop with the identification, period, because you don't want to reinforce identity. That's because it's believing, it's going deeper and deeper into Maya, the illusory realm of thoughts, right? Don't reinforce that. Go away from that. Disempower the mind and the thoughts. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. It's a little break from astrology. And I find it totally goes hand in hand with astrology, because the more I become clear about my true nature, and like it says in spiritual teaching, I mean, I'm very aware of this. The best way to think properly and to think cleanly is through spiritual practice. So, and that's a reflection, astrology is reflected in that, because you have to be able to think really clearly and interpret archetypes in order to do astrology. You have to get it. Like, this is not a mechanical skill. Like, you really have to just get it. Like, if you don't get it, you're not going to get it. You can't study astrology and think you're going to be a good astrologer just because by studying a lot. You're not. You have to have a clear mind, and you have to be able to think properly. That's how you really penetrate astrology. Yeah, by doing it over time, but like, as well as developing yourself and becoming more evolved. It's a spiritual practice. Astrology is a gift. Being able to read astrology charts is a gift from being more spiritually evolved, right? And the ones who are not more spiritually evolved are not going to be really good astrologers, right? They're just not. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon. All right, thanks. Bye.